Well, first, I guess let's break it down. Haunted item. That's usually what a spirit attached to it. Sometimes residual, sometimes intelligent.
Yeah, usually they're vessels for the dead or malevolence. Yeah.
Okay, and cursed item. That is a deliberate negative intention from either ritual, spell, or dark energy that clings.
In the minorest of definitions, yes. It's yeah. I mean, you could say it that way. I like to think of it's kind of like a recording device, but it's a recording device that favors tragedy versus promising.
Right. Okay, so it could be almost like what I was talking about on that video I did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It could be almost like a videotape that's recording the energy, but it's recording the negative energy and replaying it about.
Yes. Yeah, that's about the best way I would refer to a cursed item. Yeah.
Okay. Possessed item, often tied to a demonic entity or dark force.
Are you asking what that would be, or you? That I would call. I would call that a cursed item. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. The questions that were sent that were attached to this. I got this wrote down in like segments.
That's okay.
Have you ever walked into a room and just felt like something was wrong with an object?
Ooh, an experience question. Yes, obviously. Yes. Quite a few times. Both as far as like paranormal and as, integral. Because, you can walk into a room and feel like something's off and realize it's, the electrical cord over there that's too hot.
Bad to say that. About the only thing I've actually experienced in terms of that. I mean, it wasn't wrong. It was just off. Me and Aaron were at the Little Drummer Boy Museum, and they had a piece of a jaw that had a bullet in it.
Okay.
And we asked Liam, we're like, what's this from? Because I thought there wasn't that many executions at Camp Sumter.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, that's from Gettysburg.
Oh.
I'm like, well, thank God I asked.
Right? That has started a 2-hour ride home talking about what's going on,
Which, by the way, I'll talk to you about that one later because I feel like we need to go back out there. Do you think spirits can latch on to personal belongings like jewelry or dolls?
Yes, I do. I strongly believe that they can because I've seen it and felt it myself. But I also believe that if they are latching on to something, it's for a real reason. It's not just because I don't want to give up this or I don't want to make sure my daughter-in-law gets it or something. There's a story that goes along with why they're deciding to connect to that item. At least that's been my personal experience.
I mean, I look at what we had to deal with. Matter of fact, the same year you and Bob joined, we went through a whole rabbit hole of which doll could be the one.
Right.
and then we then figured out that there was a whole segment of this person did something to themselves, or it could be something malevolent. And it's like, okay, this is the first time I'm hearing about all this. What's going on here?
Right.
What kind of energy do you think we leave behind on objects we love or fear?
I guess to me that stems from if you're leaving if in your final departure from this plane are leaving leaving a spiritual mark on something, it's going to depend on what kind of person you are truly deep down. I mean, if you are a truly malevolent spirit and you're just a mean, nasty, hateful person, you're gonna leave a mean, nasty, hateful taste behind on things. But if you truly forgive the statement, but have forgiven and forgotten and moved on and just tried to be the best person you are, I believe that if you're going to leave anything behind at that point, it's going to be something that is going to be of a positive, or at least warm and fuzzy kind of feeling.
The day I come across an item that actually gives me a warm and fuzzy feeling,
you're gonna pass out.
That's my new teddy bear.
That's right. I'll make sure I leave something for you then.
I actually listed some. I don't know why I listed this one, but whatever. I actually listed some items here. Number one being Annabelle the doll.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that considered possessed or is that considered cursed?
Pardon me. I believe that they've always considered her possessed. Simply because at the one point back in the early in the 70s when they first came across her, and it was believed that it was the little girl, Annabelle Higgins, that lived in her. Is it Higgins or Huggins? I don't remember. I'm sorry. I think it's Higgins. Yeah, it's Higgins. They believed that little girl's spirit was in that doll. That immediately would make it a possession. When the Warrens then, did their thing and researched into it and started and they concluded that it was not the little girl Annabelle was attached to the Raggedy Ann doll. It was a demonic spirit. That still would not change it to a curse. That still made it a possession because it was a malevolent or a spirit at all living within and using this toy as a vessel. To be cursed, it would have to be someone would have to take the demonic spirit, gain control of it, put it in the item, or put the negative energy in the item, or put any energy into the item, and then send it on its way.
I mean, my thing is, they've got that doll locked in a room. Well, they did have that doll locked in a room. You've been to the Warrens Museum, haven't you?
Yeah, years and years ago I was, yes. And it's actually locked in a blessed glass case that's in a presentation room, yeah. Or it was. I don't know about.
I've heard of multiple other cases that they've had, and they've 9 times out of 10 had taken like the item and put them in their museum. Is there any chance that having Annabelle the doll in that room with all those other cursed or possessed objects, that it could just get stronger?
With the way that, from what I saw, that Ed and Lorraine had set that doll up to be sealed, if it would have been able to pull any kind of energy from within the room or from anyone visiting, there would have had to be breaking that seal. But there, you could see. I mean, if you had the abilities and were open to it and had energy reads, you could see and feel that this box did not have any, cracks or imperfections in its seal, both physically and spiritually. And it was to my understanding that even when the museum was open, it was still, a religious leader was brought in to, kind of bless and seal it on a regular basis. So do I think that it could have picked up something? From what I saw, no. Now, if devil's advocate, here we go. If there was a crack, if there was a question in the religious leader who sealed it, if there was somebody thought they were cute, came, opened it up, moved it all, cleaned inside the box, went back and closed it up again, and didn't have it sealed again, yes, things could get pulled in. If it felt if the malevolent being within the doll felt the need that it needed the energy.
Okay. Next on the list I got is the divot box, which the description that was given to that is just not correct. It's not always a wine cabinet. It's anything.
Yeah, I know about that. I've heard about that many times through the years, and yeah, it's been described as anything from a small tabletop wine lockbox, basically, to an actual like chest of drawers or armoire. It's like, all right, but if you look and you can actually see the box that they're talking about, it would be a countertop box that holds like 4 bottles of wine. It's about that size.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's from the description, it should be like a cursed object, right? Like you're putting the intention into the box.
Yes, it is believed to be a cursed object, but being as where its roots started, pardon me, I'm sorry. Being as where the roots started for the Divx box, it's, if I'm not mistaken, it first off, it was the box, the Divx box is a Jewish face thing, and the box was originally brought over, I believe it was from Poland. I'm sorry if that's wrong. I know it was one of the 3 items that the last family owner of it had, that they were permitted to bring over when they immigrated to the U.S. When that woman died, over 100 years old, she had always protected it and made sure that her family and none of the children especially touched the box, opened the box, or did anything to it. When upon her passing, it was obviously given to the next family member, and I, as a grandchild, I don't know if it was granddaughter or grandson, but I know it was a grandchild, and the grandchild sold it to an antique dealer. And now, see, it's granddaughter. It's a granddaughter coming to me. Sorry. So I'm gonna guess it's a granddaughter. But when the grandmother had died, the granddaughter had sold it to the antiques dealer, but had explained that when grandma came over here back in the day, none of us kids were allowed to touch this thing. It's one of the 3 things she was allowed to bring from Poland when they escaped the Nazis, but we're not allowed to touch it. We don't know what's in it. Grandma said it wasn't safe. That kind of mentality. Okay. At that point, I know the story went on that the antiques dealer kind of said there was things happening and things, he opened the box obviously and let the demon out, and things were going badly and misfortune and death in his life, yada yada. And so he wrote a little note and put the little note in the box that just said, it's this is not a good box. Take it away. And I believe he sold it. And then the person that bought it took it home and either, maybe it wasn't. It was either somebody bought it and took it home and sold it on eBay, or the antique dealer just said to hell with it and sold it on eBay. One of those two. Did it so that auction house kind of thing. And since then, let me say it this. Let me end this whole soliloquy with, since then, all right, this was in the early 2000s. This all happened. And since then, back in somewhere between 2020 and 2022, when all life was falling apart for everybody, the guy came forward and said, no, this never happened. So it's kind of been rebuked as being an official cursed or possessed item. It's just kind of somebody made a good story and tried to get more money for it than it was worth, kind of thing.
I'd say that's one hell of a story. I mean,
hell, I'd have bought it just for the story.
True. I mean, I see them all the time on eBay. There's hundreds of divot boxes.
Oh yeah.
But one I have yet to see, and I heard about this the other day, and only because I heard it from a friend. Mm-hmm. A Bassano vase.
Oh yeah, the Bassano vase. Yeah.
Allegedly, it brings death within months to anyone who owns it.
Yeah, you know, what's the funny thing is, I had heard about that kind of in passing. I didn't know anything more of it than, okay, what is it? You know, that kind of thing. I looked at that, getting ready for this. I had actually come across that, and it's like a wedding present or something. And it was like 15th century. And of course it's, you know, Italian and pretty and all. It's supposed to be all this great stuff. And yeah, everybody who has owned or come in contact with this thing just
right
immediately just dies. Yeah.
Right. It's like some sort of a form of tragedy that would happen, and it'll look like it's just like natural, but it happens every time they're given that.
Absolutely, yeah. And that is a true definition of a cursed item. It, you know, kills or destroys without conscience, without goal, if you will.
Now that, well, I got one more here. The Hope Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard about.
Oh, that pretty thing,
I've
yeah.
heard about the Hope Diamond, but all I've ever been really told is whoever possesses it, tragedy comes after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What?
Now, see, when I was younger, and I got into a job where I got to know about, you know, got to learn about antiques and stuff like that, and we got into jewelry talking about it. And of course, I thought I was, you know, all that a bag of tricks when I was a teenager because, hey, I know what the Hope Diamond is. No, I didn't. I knew it was a big old stone. That's all I knew. But when I got digging at the story, the diamond itself it has always been what's called a cursed diamond because it was stolen from a statue in India. And I don't know where in India, but I just know it was stolen. And not long after procuring the stone, the thief died. And since then, the stone, whoever has owned the stone, I mean, you're talking centuries now. Whoever has owned the stone to say it's theirs. So let me preface this by saying any male who has owned the stone has either succumbed to ending their life early, crazy animal attacks, you know, lynchings, massacres, you name it. It eventually got around to Harry Winston in the 50s, I believe. Now we all know if you know anything about jewelry, you know who Harry Winston is. Even if you only watch old movies, you know Harry Winston's name. But he done. Oh yeah, absolutely right. But he took this, 45 carat stone, and donated it to the Smithsonian. And I guess in the hopes of moving things away from his life, kind of thing. Trying to think. I know, because it went through a lot of hands. It went through. Well, its creator was Henry Hope. And then after he died, the family sold it, just to pay off his debts and everything. And then, because this was, figure this is a 45.5 carat rock. This is not a small stone anyway. But then Pierre Cartier, and we all know Cartier, he got a hold of it and then sold it to some socialite and crazy heiress, and she ended up getting, things went bad there, and yeah, she held on to it until her death. In all honesty, McLean, I think, or McLean, I'm not sure, but she was a wonderful woman because she had this draw for unlucky objects, and she thought that this stone is attached to all this kind of stuff, so I really want this, crazy broad.
Basically connection to the thrill.
Yeah, I mean, she'd throw these parties that find the diamond. These big lavish, expensive parties where she'd take this cursed stone, hide it around the house, and see who could find it first. And whoever found it generally ended up sick or dead in a matter of a couple weeks. I wouldn't go to a party with this woman after the first one. But when she passed on, again, she passed on oddly rather quickly. Once she got sick, that was it. I mean, it was over and done with. I mean, she had a whole world of bad luck too, because, since her possession of the stone, she lost her son, she lost her husband, she lost her husband to another woman, she herself ended up getting sick, furthermore succumbing to consumption, pneumonia. But then her, there was nobody there to take care of her estate, so her trustees were the ones that sold it to Harry Winston. He held on to it for a couple of days, weeks, whatever, and said, I don't like the feel of this, Smithsonian can have it.
So...
And he didn't even deliver it to the Smithsonian. He put it in a box and mailed it.
That would make a lot of things at the Smithsonian. There are a lot of things that don't get put out on the floor, and they're just in a warehouse, all boxed up. No one touch them.
Yeah. 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 Evidently, someone reported that the Hope Diamond had been delivered to the Smithsonian for the whopping postage fee of like $2.50.
Wow.
Yeah, ain't that great? Wow. This stone that's worth hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, $2.
Is it possible that we accidentally charge some of these items with our emotions?
I do. I do believe so, yes. Some things, things like the Hope Diamond, that really puts me in the mindset of, okay, somebody was having a rough go, and the hard feelings and bad feelings and stories get told and stories get blown up, and, bad times come, and yeah, I believe that you can cause a tangible item to be classified cursed simply because of, what is that called? Mandela effect or something like that. I can't think of the word right now. Mandela, that's it. To where just, too many like minds got together thinking the same thing everywhere across the world, and it all got there, I do believe that that happens to most cursed things, especially things that are associated with, sickness and illness.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, I mean that would sound about right, especially if we were going back to the story about the Divot box. All that they were trying to escape the Nazis,
Mm-hmm.
and all that fear, anger,
Oh, yeah.
and even if it
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
an entity trapped in the box, let's just say it was just all emotion. That's a lot of just emotion into the
Oh, yeah.
box. Do you?
Mm-hmm. Well, Christ, and one of the biggest ones is hatred. Imagine the anger and the hatred these people had for, this whole culture of people being segregated simply because of their way of life.
Speaking of that, could an heirloom carry generations of unresolved trauma?
I believe so. Because again, it's energy and stories and, hatred and fear and, most people don't think of the fact that negative energy or negative feelings have such a strong energy to them. You don't think how strong your anger or your pain is or your fear is. If you've ever lost a parent, and you didn't have a chance to say goodbye, or you had a fight with them the last time, that and these are minor things I'm thinking about as far as losing a parent goes, but the hurt and the pain that goes along with that has such a strong energy field, and we don't think about that. All we think about is what I feel, not what I'm giving out.
Right. I mean, if you're looking at it from just that, the sole, just the singular purpose of it.
Mm-hmm.
Items get passed down generation to generation, and you're just looking at how you feel in that moment at that time, and it just builds. And when you were talking about what you were talking about earlier, the first thing that popped in my mind was slavery, Jim Crow. There are items that are passed down throughout the centuries.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got, you think about it. I mean, it's anything really sits is, especially with, modern day reaction to slavery, to historic slavery. Let me say it that way. You've got people now. There are living, breathing people right now that are related to the people that were segregated, harmed, God help us, lynched, that were hated and hurt simply just trying to live. And now you've got another generation of people that is thinking about what someone did to my family. So you've got your pain because this is my family that had to suffer this. But then you've also got to look at how modern time is sitting and how far off are we of this happening again. So you've got fear there, you've got anger for irresponsibility and injustice. It's on that definitive, it gets powerful.
Yeah, it becomes a recreation of the emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it actually feeds it more because, historical stories are one thing, but personal stories are something else.
Yep. For those that do listen to our podcast, if they come in contact with one of these haunted, cursed, or possessed items, what are some safety tips that they can take to move forward with that item, or get rid of the item?
Okay. Yeah, that would be my suggestion. If you come across an item that you believe and you can't get past, that you can't, this bad boy's cursed, it's got, something's got to be done. Do yourself a favor and get rid of it. Find someone somewhere occult museums, paranormal investigators, anyone that has any kind of ability to control or remove, give it to them. Because if you keep a hold of something that you don't know how to take care of, all of your new emotions beyond the the wonderful of, oh, this is what it is going to cause more drama and more trouble later.
Right. When I was doing the research for this, I had to explain to a friend of mine, almost 1 out of 3 items out of any thrift store could be haunted. And it's usually because someone doesn't have an estate sale going well, or they're just donating items.
I think that sounds a little accelerated, but I mean, I suppose that's a good place to start to consider if you want to try to avoid bringing cursed items towards you. Yeah. But if you're buying things at a thrift store or an estate sale or an antiques mall or even online, if my caveat here is, if you are looking at an item and something in you says no, I don't care if it's that tiny little kid that was hiding in the closets when Halloween Town was playing on Disney. I don't care. If that one little voice in you says no, just don't. No matter how nice it'll look on your divan or how nice it'll work in your kitchen or on the, it doesn't matter. If something in you screaming at you, no, don't do that, there's a reason for that. Pay attention, listen to your intuition. It might not just be you saying don't do that.